Frederick, Maryland. Frederick is a city in, and the county seat of, Frederick County in the U.S. state of Maryland. It is part of the Baltimore-Washington metropolitan area. Frederick has long been an important crossroads, located at the intersection of a major north-south Indian Trail and east-west routes to the Chesapeake Bay, both at Baltimore and what became Washington, D.C., and across the Appalachian Mountains to the Ohio River watershed. It is a part of the Washington-Arlington-Alexandria DCBA-MDWV Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is part of a Greater Washington-Baltimore-Arlington DCMDVA-WVPA Combined Statistical Area. The city's population was 65,239 people at the 2010 United States Census, making it the second largest incorporated city in Maryland, behind Baltimore. Frederick is home to Frederick Municipal Airport, which accommodates general aviation, and to the county's largest employer, U.S. Army's Fort Detrick Bioscience/Communications Research Installation. Located where Catoctin Mountain meets the rolling hills of the Piedmont region, the Frederick area became a crossroads even before European explorers and traders arrived. Native American hunters, possibly including the Susquehannock, the Algonquian-speaking Shawnee, or the Seneca or Tuscarora or other members of the Iroquois Confederation, followed the Monocacy River from the Susquehanna River watershed in Pennsylvania to the Potomac River watershed in the lands of the more agrarian and maritime Algonquian peoples, particularly the Lenape of the Delaware Valley or the Piscataway and Powhatan of the lower Potomac watershed and Chesapeake Bay. This became known as the Monocacy Trail or even the Great Indian Warpath, with some travelers continuing southward through the Great Appalachian Valley to the western Piedmont in North Carolina, or traveling down other watersheds in Virginia toward the Chesapeake Bay, such as those of the Rappahannock, James, and York Rivers. The earliest European settlement was slightly north of Frederick in Monocacy, Maryland. Founded before 1730, when the Indian Trail became a wagon road, Monocacy was abandoned before the American Revolutionary War, perhaps due to the river's periodic flooding or hostilities predating the French and Indian War, or simply Frederick's better location with easier access to the Potomac River near its confluence with the Monocacy. Daniel Dulany, a land speculator, laid out Fredericktown by 1745. 3 years earlier, All Saints Church had been founded on a hilltop near a warehouse/trading post. Sources disagree as to which Frederick the town was named for, but the likeliest candidates are Frederick Calvert, 6th Baron Baltimore, Frederick Louis, Prince of Wales, or Frederick the Great of Prussia. In 1742, Maryland's General Assembly made Frederick the county seat of Frederick County, which then extended to the Appalachian Mountains. The current town's first house was built by a young German Reformed schoolmaster from the Rhineland-Palatinate named Johann Thomas Schley, who led a party of immigrants to the Maryland colony. The Palatinate settlers bought land from Dulany on the banks of Carroll Creek, and Schley's house stood at the northwest corner of Middle Alley and East Patrick Street into the 20th century. Schley's settlers also founded a German Reformed church. Probably the oldest house still standing in Frederick today is Schifferstadt, built in 1756 by German settler Joseph Brunner and now the Schifferstadt Architectural Museum. Schley's group was among the many Pennsylvania Dutch who migrated south and westward in the late 18th century. Frederick was an important stop along the migration route that became known as the Great Wagon Road, which came down from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and Emmitsburg, Maryland and continued south following the Great Appalachian Valley through Winchester and Roanoke, Virginia. Another important route continued along the Potomac River from near Frederick to Hagerstown, where it split. One branch crossed the Potomac River near Martinsburg, West Virginia and continued down into the Shenandoah Valley. The other continued west to Cumberland, Maryland and ultimately crossed the Appalachian Mountains into the watershed of the Ohio River. Thus, British General Edward Braddock marched his troops west in 1755 through Frederick on the way to their fateful ambush near Fort Duquesne during the French and Indian War. However, the British after the proclamation of 1763 restricted that westward migration route until after the American Revolutionary War. Other westward migrants continued south from Frederick to Roanoke along the Great Wagon Road, crossing the Appalachians into Kentucky and Tennessee at the Cumberland Gap near the Virginia/North Carolina border. Other German settlers in Frederick were evangelical Lutherans, led by Reverend Henry Muhlenberg. They moved their mission church from Monocacy to what became a large complex a few blocks further down Church Street from the Anglicans and the German Reformed Church. Methodist missionary Robert Strawbridge accepted an invitation to preach at Fredericktown in 1770, and Francis Asbury arrived 2 years later, both helping to found a congregation which became Calvary Methodist Church, worshipping in a log building from 1792. Frederick also had a Catholic mission, to which Reverend Jean Dubois was assigned in 1792, which became St. John the Evangelist Church. To control this crossroads during the American Revolution, the British garrisoned a German Hessian regiment in the town. The war. Afterward, many former Hessians stayed on and married into the town's families, strengthening the town's German identity. As the county seat for Western Maryland, Frederick not only was an important market town, but also the seat of justice. Although Montgomery County and Washington County were split off from Frederick County in 1776, Frederick remained the seat of the smaller county. Important lawyers who practiced in Frederick included John Hanson, Francis Scott Key and Roger B. Taney. Frederick was also known during the 19th century for its religious pluralism, with one of its main thoroughfares, Church Street, hosting about a half-dozen major churches. In 1793, All Saints Church hosted the first confirmation of an American citizen, by the newly consecrated Episcopal Bishop Thomas Claggett. That original colonial building was replaced in 1814 by a brick Classical Revival structure. It still stands today, although the principal worship space has become an even larger brick Gothic church joining it at the back and facing Frederick's City Hall. The main Catholic church, dedicated to St. John the Evangelist, was built in 1800, then rebuilt in 1837 one block north of Church Street on East 2nd Street, where it still stands along with a school and convent established by the Visitation Sisters. The Stone Evangelical Lutheran Church of 1752 was also rebuilt and enlarged in 1825, then replaced by the current twin-spired structure in 1852. The oldest African American church in the town is Asbury United Methodist Church, founded as the Old Hill Church, a mixed congregation in 1818. It became an African American congregation in 1864, renamed Asbury Methodist Episcopal Church in 1870, and built its current building on All Saints Street in 1921. Together, these churches dominated the town, set against the backdrop of the first ridge of the Appalachians, Catoctin Mountain. The abolitionist poet John Greenleaf Whittier later immortalized this view of Frederick in his poem to Barbara Frietchie, "The clustered spires of Frederick stand, green-walled by the hills of Maryland." When U.S. President Thomas Jefferson commissioned the building of the National Road from Baltimore toward St. Louis, the National Pike ran through Frederick along Patrick Street. Frederick's Jacob Engelbrecht corresponded with Jefferson in 1824, and kept a diary from 1819 to 1878 which remains an important first-hand account of 19th-century life from its viewpoint on the National Road. An important house remaining from this era is the Tyler Spite House, built in 1814 at 112 West Church Street by a local doctor to prevent the city from extending Record Street south through his land to meet West Patrick Street. Frederick also became one of the new nation's leading mining counties in the early 19th century. It exported gold, copper, limestone, marble, iron and other minerals. As early as the American Revolution, Catoctin Furnace near Thurmont became important for iron production. Other mining areas split off into Washington County, Maryland, and Allegheny County, Maryland but continued to ship their ore through Frederick to eastern cities and ports. Frederick had easy access to the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, which began operations in 1831 and continued hauling freight until 1924. Also in 1831, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad completed its Frederick branch line from the Frederick Junction off the main western line from Baltimore to Harper's Ferry, Cumberland, and the Ohio River. The railroad reached Chicago and St. Louis by the 1850s. Frederick became Maryland's capital city briefly in 1861, as the legislature moved from Annapolis to vote on the secession question. President Lincoln arrested several members, and the Assembly was unable to convene a quorum to vote on secession. As a major crossroads, Frederick, like Winchester, Virginia, and Martinsburg, West Virginia, saw considerable action during the American Civil War. Slaves also escaped from war through Frederick to join the Union forces, work against the Confederacy and seek freedom. During the Maryland campaigns, both Union and Confederate troops marched through the city. Frederick also hosted several hospitals to nurse the wounded from those battles, as is related in the National Museum of Civil War Medicine on East Patrick Street. A legend related by John Greenleaf Whittier claimed that Frederick's Pennsylvania Dutch women booed the Confederates in September 1862, as General Stonewall Jackson led his light infantry division through Frederick on his way to the battles of Crampton's, Fox's and Turner's Gaps on South Mountain and Antietam near Sharpsburg. Union Major General Jesse L. Reno's 9th Corps followed Jackson's men through the city a few days later on the way to the Battle of South Mountain, where Reno died. The sites of the battles are due west of the city along the National Road, west of Burkittsville. Confederate troops under Jackson and Walker unsuccessfully attempted to halt the Federal Army's westward advance into the Cumberland Valley and toward Sharpsburg. Gathland State Park has the War Correspondents Memorial Stone Arch erected by reporter/editor George Alfred Townsend. The 1889 memorial commemorating Major General Reno and the Union soldiers of his 9th Corps is on Reno Monument Road west of Middletown, just below the summit of Fox's Gap, as is a 1993 memorial to slain Confederate Brigadier General Samuel Garland, Jr., and the North Carolina troops who held the line. President Abraham Lincoln, on his way to visit General George McClellan after the Battle of South Mountain and the Battle of Antietam, delivered a short speech at what was then the B.O. Railroad Depot at the current intersection of East All Saints and South Market Streets. A plaque commemorates the speech. At the Prospect Hall Mansion off Jefferson Street to Buckystown Pike near what is now Butterfly Lane, in the early morning hours of June 28, 1863, a messenger arrived from President Abraham Lincoln and General-in-Chief Henry Halleck, informing General George Meade that he would be replacing General Joseph Hooker after the latter's disastrous performance at Chancellorsville in May. The Army of the Potomac camped around the Prospect Hall property for the several days as skirmishers pursued Lee's Confederate Army of Northern Virginia prior to Gettysburg. A large granite rectangular monument made from one of the boulders at the Devil's Den in Gettysburg to the east along the driveway commemorates the midnight change of command. In July 1864, in the Third Southern Invasion, Confederate troops led by Lieutenant General Jubal Early occupied Frederick and extorted $200,000 from citizens for not raising the city on their way to Washington, D.C. Union troops under Major General Lew Wallace defeated what became the last significant Confederate advance at the Battle of Monocacy Junction, also known as the battle that saved Washington. The Monocacy National Battlefield lies just southeast of the city limits, along the Monocacy River at the B&O Railroad Junction where two bridges cross the stream, an iron truss bridge for the railroad and a covered wooden bridge for the Frederick-Urbana-Georgetown Pike, which was the site of the main Battle of July 1864. Some skirmishing occurred further northeast of town at the Stone Arch Jug Bridge where the National Road crossed the Monocacy, and an artillery bombardment occurred along the National Road west of town near Redman's Hill and Prospect Hall Mansion as the Union troops retreated eastward. Antietam National Battlefield and South Mountain State Battlefield Park, which commemorates the 1862 battles, are located 23 miles and 35 miles respectively to the west-northwest, while Gettysburg National Battlefield of 1863 lies approximately 35 miles to the north-northeast. The reconstructed home of Barbara Fritchie stands on West Patrick Street, just past Carroll Creek Linear Park. Fritchie, a significant figure in Maryland history in her own right, is buried in Frederick's Mount Olivet Cemetery. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill quoted Whittier's poem to President Franklin D. Roosevelt when they stopped here in 1941 on a car trip to the presidential retreat, then called Shangri-La within the Catoctin Mountains near Thurmont. Admiral Winfield Scott Schley was born at Richfields, the mansion home of his father. He became an important naval commander of the American fleet on board his flagship and heavy cruiser USS Baltimore along with Admiral William T. Sampson in the Battle of Santiago de Cuba off the shores of the Spanish island colony of Cuba in the Spanish-American War in 1898. Major Henry Schley's son, Dr. Fairfax Schley, was instrumental in setting up the Frederick County Agricultural Society and the Great Frederick Fair. Gilmer Schley served as mayor from 1919 to 1922, and the Schleys remained one of the town's leading families into the late 20th century. Nathaniel Wilson Schley, a prominent banker, and his wife Mary Margaret Schley helped organize and raise funds for the annual Great Frederick Fair, one of the two largest agricultural fairs in the state. Since the 1960s, the fair has featured many outstanding country western singers and become a major music festival. Schley Avenue commemorates the family's role in the city's heritage. The Frederick and Pennsylvania Line Railroad ran from Frederick to the Pennsylvania-Maryland State Line, A/K/A Mason-Dixon Line. Chartered in 1867, construction began in 1869 and the line opened October 8, 1872. However, it defaulted on its interest payments in 1874 and acquired by the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1875, which formed a new division to operate the rail line. In the spring of 1896, The Frederick and Pennsylvania Line Railroad was liquidated in a judicial sale to the Pennsylvania Railroad for $150,000. The railroad survived through mergers and the Penn Central bankruptcy. However, the state of Maryland acquired the Frederick and Pennsylvania Line in 1982. As of 2013, all but 2 miles at the southern terminus at Frederick still exist, operated by either the Walkersville Southern or the Maryland Midland Railway Railroads. Jewish pioneers Henry Lazarus and Levi Cohen settled in Frederick in the 1740s as merchants. Mostly German Jewish immigrants organized a community in the mid-19th century, creating the Frederick Hebrew Congregation in 1858. Later the congregation lapsed, but was reorganized in 1917 as a cooperative effort between the older settlers and more recently arrived Eastern European Jews under the name Beth Shalom Congregation. In 1905, Reverend E. B. Hatcher started the First Baptist Church of Frederick. After the Civil War, the Maryland legislature established racially segregated public facilities by the end of the 19th century, reimposing white supremacy. Black institutions were typically underfunded in the state, and it was not until 1921 that Frederick established a public high school for African Americans. First located at 170 West All Saints Street, it moved to 250 Madison Street, where it eventually was adapted as South Frederick Elementary. The building presently houses the Lincoln Elementary School. The Laboring Sons Memorial Grounds, a cemetery for free blacks, was founded in 1851. Frederick is located in Frederick County in the northern part of the state of Maryland. The city has served as a major crossroads since colonial times. Today it is located at the junction of Interstate 70, Interstate 270, U.S. Route 340, U.S. Route 40, U.S. Route 40 alternate and U.S. Route 15. In relation to nearby cities, Frederick lies 46 miles west of Baltimore, 49 miles north and slightly west of Washington, D.C., 24 miles southeast of Hagerstown, Maryland, and 71 miles southwest of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The city's coordinates are 39 degrees 25 minutes and 35 seconds north, 77 degrees 25 minutes and 13 seconds west. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 23.33 square miles, of which 23.15 square miles is land and 0.18 square miles is water. The city's area is predominantly land, with small areas of water being the Monocacy River, which runs to the east of the city, Carroll Creek, as well as several neighborhood ponds and small city-owned lakes, such as Color Lake, a man-made small body of water in the downtown area. The climate in this area is characterized by hot, humid summers and generally cool winters. It lies to the west of the fall line, which gives the city slightly lower temperatures compared to locales further east. According to the Köppen climate classification system, Frederick has a humid subtropical climate, abbreviated CFA on climate maps. As of the 2010 U.S. Census, there were 65,239 people residing in Frederick City and roughly 27,000 households. The city's population grew by 23.6% in the 10 years since the 2000 census, making it the fastest-growing incorporated area in the state of Maryland with a population of over 50,000 for 2010. 2010 census data put the racial makeup of the city at 61% white, 18.6% Black or African American, 0.2% Native American, 5.8% Asian American, and 14.4% Hispanic or Latino of any race. Roughly 4% of the city's population was of two or more races. In regard to minority group growth, the 2010 census data show the city's Hispanic population at 9,402, a 271% increase compared with 2,533 in 2000, making Hispanic/Latinos the fastest-growing race group in the city and in Frederick County. Frederick City had 3,800 Asian residents in 2010, a 128% increase from the city's 1,664 Asian residents in 2000. The city's Black or African American population increased 56%, from 7,777 in 2000 to 12,144 in 2010. For the roughly 27,000 households in the city, 30.6% had children under the age of 18 living with him, 41.7% were married couples living together, 12.8% had a female householder with no husband present, and 41% were non-families. Approximately 31% of all households were made up of individuals living alone and 8.1% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.46 and the average family size was 3.11. As of 2009, 27.5% of the city's population was under the age of 19, 24.5% were between 20 and 34, 28.1% were between 35 and 54, 9.0% were between 55 and 64, and 10.5% were 65 years of age or older. The median age of a Frederick City resident for 2009 was 34 years. For adults aged 18 or older, the population was 48.6% male and 51.4% female. According to U.S. Census data for 2009, the median annual income for a household in Frederick City was $64,833, and the median annual income for a family was $77,642. Males had a median annual income of $49,129 versus $41,986 for females. The per capita income for the city was $31,123. Approximately 7.7% of the total population, 5.3% of families, and 5.2% of adults aged 65 and older were living below the poverty line. The unemployment rate in the city for adults over the age of 18 was 5.1%. In regard to educational attainment for individuals aged 25 or older as of 2009, 34% of the city's residents had a bachelor's or advanced professional degree, 29.6% had some college or an associate degree, 21.6% had a high school diploma or equivalency, 6.8% had between a 9th and 12th grade level of education, and 3.6% had an 8th grade or lower level of education. The median value of a home in Frederick City as of 2009 was $303,900, with the bulk of owner-occupied homes valued at between $300,000 and $500,000. The median cost of a rental unit was $1,054 per month, with the bulk of rental units priced between $1,000 and $1,500 per month. The value of the housing stock in Frederick is above the national average and significantly higher than small nearby cities such as Hagerstown, Maryland, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This discrepancy likely reflects Frederick's location as a desirable and growing commuter suburb of Washington, D.C., one of the most expensive housing and rental markets in the nation. 2009 census data indicated that roughly 89% of the workforce commuted to work by automobile, with an average commute time of approximately 30 minutes. This suggests that a substantial portion of those residing in Frederick City are, in fact, commuting out of the county for work. In 2017, Democrat Michael O'Connor was elected mayor of Frederick. Previous mayors include: Frederick has a board of aldermen of 6 members which serves as its legislative body. Elections are held every 4 years. Following the elections on November 7, 2017, Kelly Russell, Donna Kuzumchak, Derek Shackelford, Roger Wilson, and Ben McShane, all Democrats, were elected to the board. Democrat Michael O'Connor was elected mayor, defeating incumbent Republican Randy McClement. The city has its own police department. According to the city's 2017 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the top employers in the city are: Frederick's relative proximity to Washington, D.C., has always been an important factor in the development of its local economy, as well as the presence of Fort Detrick, its largest employer. Frederick is the home of Riverside Research Park, a large biomedical research park located on Frederick's east side. Tenants include relocated offices of the National Cancer Institute as well as Charles River Labs. As a result of continued and enhanced federal government investment, the Frederick area will likely maintain a continued growth pattern over the next decade. Frederick has also been impacted by recent national trends centered on the gentrification of the downtown areas of cities across the nation, and to rebrand them as sites for cultural consumption. The Frederick Historic District in the city's downtown houses more than 200 retailers, restaurants and antique shops along Market, Patrick, and East Streets. Restaurants feature a diverse array of cuisines, including Italian-American, Thai, Vietnamese, and Cuban, as well as a number of regionally recognized dining establishments, such as the Tasting Room and Oldie Town Tavern. In addition to retail and dining, downtown Frederick is home to 600 businesses and organizations totaling nearly 5,000 employees. A growing technology sector can be found in downtown's historic renovated spaces, as well as in new office buildings located along Carroll Creek Park. Carroll Creek Park began as a flood control project in the late 1970s. It was an effort to reduce the risk to downtown Frederick from the 100-year floodplain and restore economic vitality to the historic commercial district. Today, more than $150 million in private investing is underway or planned in new construction, infill development or historic renovation in the park area. The first phase of the park improvements, totaling nearly $11 million in construction, run from Court Street to just past Carroll Street. New elements to the park include brick pedestrian paths, water features, planters with shade trees and plantings, pedestrian bridges and a 350-seat amphitheater for outdoor performances. A recreational and cultural resource, the park also serves as an economic development catalyst, with private investment along the creek functioning as a key component to the park's success. More than 400,000 SF of office space, 150,000 SF of commercial/retail space, nearly 300 residential units, and more than 2,000 parking spaces are planned or under construction. On the first Saturday of every month, Frederick hosts an evening event in the downtown area called First Saturday. Each Saturday has a theme, and activities are planned according to those themes in the downtown area. The event spans a 10-block area of Frederick and takes place from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. during the late spring, summer, and early fall months. This event draws particularly large crowds from neighboring cities and towns in Maryland, and nearby locations in the tri-state area. The average number of attendees visiting downtown Frederick during First Saturday events is around 11,000, with higher numbers from May to October. Frederick is well known for the clustered spires skyline of its historic downtown churches. These spires are depicted on the city's seal and many other city-affiliated logos and insignia. The phrase clustered spires is used as the name of several city locations such as Clustered Spires Cemetery and the city-operated Clustered Spires Golf Course. The housing stock of downtown Frederick is mostly composed of 19th and 20th century row housing and duplexes. The scale of this older part of the city is dense, with streets and sidewalks suitable for pedestrians, and a variety of shops and restaurants, comprising what Forbes magazine in 2010 called one of the United States' greatest neighborhoods. Adjacent to downtown are many older communities composed of larger, detached housing built mostly in the early 20th century. Beyond that is housing from the mid-20th century and beyond, becoming suburban in character the further one travels out. The most extensive growth is to the south of the downtown area, including the business corridor along Maryland Highway 85 outside the city. Frederick has a bridge painted with a mural titled Community Bridge. The artist William Cochran has been acclaimed for the trompe-l'oeil realism of the mural. Thousands of people sent ideas representing community, which he painted on the stonework of the bridge. The residents of Frederick call it the mural, painted bridge, or more commonly, the mural bridge. The Frederick Arts Council is the designated arts organization for Frederick County. The organization is charged with promoting, supporting, and advocating the arts. There are over 10 art galleries in downtown Frederick, and 3 theaters are located within 50 feet of each other. Frederick is the home of the Delaplane Visual Arts Education Center, a leading nonprofit in the region, as well as the Maryland Shakespeare Festival. In August 2007, the streets of Frederick were adorned with 30 life-size fiberglass keys as part of a major public art project entitled The Keys to Frederick. In October 2007, artist William Cochran created a large-scale glass project titled The Dreaming. The project is in the historic Theater District, across from the Weinberg Center for the Arts. The film Blair Witch Project was set in the woods west of Burkittsville, Maryland, in western Frederick County, but it was not filmed there. The Maryland Ensemble Theater, a professional theater company, is housed on the lower level of the Francis Scott Key Hotel. The Met first produced Main Stage Theater in 1997, but the group began performing together with its creation of the Comedy Pigs sketch comedy/improv troupe in April 1993. Frederick has a community orchestra, the Frederick Symphony Orchestra, that performs 5 concerts per year consisting of classical masterpieces. Other musical organizations in Frederick include the Frederick Chorale, the Choral Arts Society of Frederick, the Frederick Regional Youth Orchestra, and the Frederick Symphonic Band. The Frederick Children's Chorus has performed since 1985. It is a 5-tier chorus, with approximately 150 members ranging in age from 5 to 18. A weekly recital is played on the Joseph Dill Baker Carillon the first and third Sundays each month at 12:30 p.m. for half an hour. The carillon can be heard from anywhere in Baker Park, and the city carillonneur can be seen playing in the tower once a year as part of the candlelight tour of historic houses of worship, on the first weekday after Christmas. Frederick is home to the Frederick School of Classical Ballet, the official school for Maryland Regional Ballet. Approximately 30 dance studios are located around the city. Each year, these studios perform at the annual Dance Fest event. Frederick also has a large amphitheater in Baker Park, which features regular music performances of local and national acts, particularly in the summer months. Clutch, a successful rock band formed in 1990, calls Frederick their home. The band rehearses for each album and tour in Frederick, while drummer Jean-Paul Gaster has been a resident of Frederick since 2001. One of the band's biggest hits, 50,000 Unstoppable Watts, was written about Fort Detrick and Frederick. Frederick is also home to indie rock band Silent Old Mountains. The music video for their 2012 single Dead All the Time was shot entirely in historic downtown Frederick. The city's main mall is the Francis Scott Key Mall. An abandoned retail center, the Fredericktown Mall existed previously, and closed in 2013. Frederick organizations include the Frederick Festival of Film, the Peace Resource Center of Frederick County, a chapter of Women in Black, and the Frederick Progressive Action Coalition or FredPAC. The UNESCO Center for Peace has been working since 2004 in the city and around the state to promote the ideals of the United Nations educational, scientific and cultural organization. The O Center for Peace is partnered to county's public schools, Hood College, Frederick Community College, Maryland School for the Deaf, Frederick County Public Libraries, on a variety of community projects that include various after-school programs, Ambassador Speaker Series, Regional Model United Nations, International Model United Nations, celebrations of major United Nations International Days, the Frederick Stamp Festival, and exchange programs for high school and college-level students and schools. There are numerous religious denominations in Frederick. The first churches were established by early Protestant settlers, followed by Irish Catholics and other European Catholics. St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church in Della is one of the oldest active African American churches in Frederick County, Maryland, according to a testimonial placed in its cornerstone which stated that it was the first AME church built in the southern part of Frederick County. It was built in 1916 on a foundation first laid in 1908. In Frederick City proper, Lutheran, Evangelical Reformed, Presbyterian, Roman Catholic, Methodist, Episcopal Church and United Church of Christ churches predominate. Mount Olivet Cemetery is the largest cemetery in the city and is Roman Catholic. Maryland was founded as a Catholic colony by Cecil Calvert, a Roman Catholic supporter of England's King Charles I. Frederick County also retains ties to the Pennsylvania Dutch, and some Old Order Amish cultivate land as small-scale truck farmers. Other denominations represented in Frederick City and in the surrounding county include large numbers of Brethren, as well as some Pentecostal churches. Quinn Chapel, of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, is located on East 3rd Street. The Ame Church, founded in Philadelphia in the early 19th century by free blacks, is the first black independent denomination in the United States. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has had a presence in Frederick since the 1970s when the first congregation was organized, and now includes 4 congregations in 2 buildings within the city. Beth Shalom Congregation, a conservative synagogue, has been in Frederick since 1917. Congregation Kol Ami, a Reform synagogue, was founded in 2003. Chabad Lubavitch of Frederick, a Chabad, was founded in 2009. Sri Bhakta Anjaneya Temple, located in Urbana, serves Frederick's Hindu community. The Islamic Society of Frederick, founded in the early 1990s, serves Frederick's Muslim community. Frederick is licensed one Maryland Public Television station affiliate, WFPT 62. The city is home to WWFD/820 and 94.3 FM, relaying freeform the gamut, WFMD/930 AM broadcasting a news/talk/sports format, WFRE/99.9 broadcasting country music, and WAFI/103.1 which plays all the latest pop songs. The following box details all of the radio stations in the local market. Frederick's newspaper of record is the Frederick News Post. The main library for Frederick County is located in downtown Frederick, with several branches across the county. Frederick County Public Schools operates area public schools. FCPS ranks number 1 in the state of Maryland in the 2012 School Progress Index accountability data, which includes overall student performance, closing achievement gaps, student growth and college and career readiness. FCPS holds the second lowest dropout rate in the state of Maryland at 3.84%, with a graduation rate at 93.31%. In 2013, FCPS's SAT average combined mean score was 1,538, which is 55 points higher than Maryland's combined average of 1,483 and 40 points higher than the nation's average of 1,498. All of FCPS's high schools, except for Oakdale High School, which was not open to all grade levels at the time of the survey, are ranked in the top 10% of the nation for encouraging students to take AP classes. High schools serving Frederick City students. Other high schools in Frederick County. Other public schools: Adult Education, Career, and Technology Center, Heather Ridge School, Outdoor School, Rock Creek School, and the Earth and Space Science Laboratory. Frederick County was longtime home to a highly innovative outdoor school for all 6th graders in Frederick County. This school was located at Camp Greentop, near the presidential retreat at Camp David and Cunningham Falls State Park. Frederick's location as a crossroads has been a factor in its development as a minor distribution center both for the movement of people in western Maryland, as well as goods. This intersection has created an efficient distribution network for commercial traffic in and out, as well as through the city. Major roads and streets in Frederick are intersected by. From 1896 to 1961, Frederick was served by the Hagerstown and Frederick Railway, an interurban trolley service that was among the last surviving systems of its kind in the United States. The city is served by MARC commuter rail service, which operates several trains daily on the former Baltimore and Ohio Railroad's Old Main Line and Metropolitan Branch subdivisions to Washington, D.C., Express Bus Route 991, which operates to the Shady Grove Metrorail station, and a series of buses operated by TransIT Services of Frederick, Maryland. Greyhound Lines also serves the city. Frederick Municipal Airport has a mile-long runway and a second 3,600 runway. Beginning in the 1990s, Frederick has invested in several urban infrastructure projects, including streetscape, new bus routes, as well as multi-use paths. A circular road, Monocacy Boulevard, is an important component to the revitalization of its historic core. The Mayor's Ad Hoc Bicycle Committee was formed in 2010 and given the mission to achieve designation for the city as a bicycle-friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists. The first application resulted in an honorable mention. Upon reapplication in 2012, Frederick achieved the bronze-level BFC designation. The city's third application resulted in recertification as a bronze bicycle-friendly community. Work is ongoing to achieve an even stronger designation at the time of the next application. In 2013, the Mayor's Ad Hoc Bicycle Committee was expanded in scope to include pedestrian issues and was formally adopted by Resolution 13-08 as a permanent standing committee called the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The PAC advises city officials and staff on the sound development, management, and safe use of the City of Frederick's pedestrian and bicycle systems as they relate to infrastructure, accessibility, and promoting the benefits of these systems. Stability, 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 and promoting the benefits of